Hi everybody, welcome to Sir Chua's Accounting Lessons PH. Today we will be discussing financial statements and the statement of financial position. At the end of the video, you should be able to identify the components of financial statements, explain the objective of financial statements, identify the primary responsibility and general features in the presentation of financial statements, discuss the nature of a statement of financial position, discuss and expound on the current and non-current classifications of assets and liabilities, discuss the treatment of refinancing a currently maturing obligation, and prepare a statement of financial position in good accounting form. This is your lecturer, Kevin Troy M. Chua. Please like, share, and subscribe to Sir Chua's Accounting Lessons PH and hit the notification bell button. Please comment down your questions, suggestions, and reactions. Thank you very much for trusting Sir Chua's Accounting Lessons PH as your online learning partner. And our featured subscriber for this lesson is Ms. Erica Joyce D. Nuestro from the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, Manila. If you want to be featured as one of our featured subscribers, please send me a photo of you using Sir Chua's Accounting Lessons PH. Thank you po sa inyo pong suporta sa Sir Chua's Accounting Lessons PH, and I hope to give you more wonderful lessons in the future. Okay, we're ready to start our lesson for this session. In the last lesson, we discussed about the cash to accrual basis of accounting. We have distinguished what is cash basis and what is accrual basis, and kung ano po ba yung ginagamit talaga sa pagpe-prepare ng financial statements under the IFRS. And now we are ready to move on with the formal preparation of your financial statements. So in this lesson, we will be starting first with your discussion of financial statements, and then we proceed with your preparation of the statement of financial position. Okay, so before anything else, to review basic concepts of financial statements preparation on a basic accounting perspective, pwede po kayong pumunta sa Lesson 24 entitled Financial Statements on the playlist of Fundamentals of Accountancy, Business, and Management 1. So basically, this is actually for senior high school. So kung gusto nyo pong ma-review ang pagpe-prepare ng financial statements on a very basic perspective, you can go to that lesson also here in this channel. Again, that's under the playlist Fundamentals of Accountancy, Business, and Management. And then also, if you want to review the basic concepts ng pagpe-prepare naman po ng Statement of Financial Position, which is again for senior high school level, you can visit Lesson 35, which is entitled Statement of Financial Position, and siya naman po ay nasa playlist ng Fundamentals of Accountancy, Business, and Management Part 2. Okay, so if you're from the ABM strand, I hope that this will be much easier for you. But for those students who are not coming from PUP and then you are accountancy but you're not from the ABM strand, I think this will be very helpful for you. However, if you're a BSA student and you came from the ABM strand, so I think this is just this lesson is actually much more easier for you now. So in any case that you want to go back to the basic preparation of financial statements, and basically for this one, the statement of financial position, you can just go back to our videos, which is uploaded also in this channel. Okay, it's both in our FABM 1 and FABM 2 playlists. Okay, so the accounting standard that we will be using for this lesson is IAS 1 entitled Presentation of Financial Statements. So you can access that at www.ifrs.org, and then I think you will just have to create an account. But if you don't want to make an account, hingi kayo sa teacher nyo. Okay? So yung i-discuss natin actually today is basically coming from the standard mismo, no? We got some excerpts from the paragraphs of the accounting standard, and then that's what we will be discussing today. Okay? Let's first talk about the nature, objective, components, and general features of financial statements. What are the objectives of the International Accounting Standard 1? So this is according to paragraph 1. Ano po ba ang sinasabi ng IAS 1? Number 1, presentation of general purpose financial statements. So, sila po ang magbibigay sa atin ng basis para po sa ating pag-prepare ng general purpose financial statements. Later on in our discussion, we will be discussing ano po ba yung sinasabi nating general purpose. Okay? And then IAS 1 prescribes also that we ensure comparability both with the entity's financial statements of previous periods and with the financial statements of other entities. If you will be looking at this phrase, financial statements of previous periods within the same entity, if you will remember, that is the concept of intra-comparability, comparing your financial statements with yourself with previous accounting periods. Okay? And then ito naman pong isa, which is financial statements of other entities, yan po yung tinatawag nating inter-comparability or comparing your financial reports with the financial reports of other entities within the same industry. Okay? So yan naman po yung inter-comparability. Also, IAS 1 talks about setting out overall requirements for the presentation of financial statements. Basically, the title of IAS 1 is Presentation of Financial Statements. So, from that title, we can say that IAS 1 will give you the basis or the guidance on how to prepare financial statements. Okay? And then, guidelines for their structure and minimum requirements for their content. Ano po ba yung dapat nating makita at paano po ba dapat ang kanyang itsura? Yan po ang nilalaman ng IAS 1. Okay, so ano po ba ang saklaw ng IAS 1? Under paragraph 2, an entity shall prepare financial statements and present financial statements with the application of IAS 1, no? Okay, so, and syempre, those financial statements should be in accordance with the provisions of the International Financial Reporting Standards. And under IFRS, nandun naman po yung IAS 1. So, basically, ang gusto lang niyan sabihin is the financial statements should be applied under IAS 1 and the items inside the financial statements should be the IFRS that is related to those account titles. Other IFRSs set out the recognition, measurement, and disclosure requirements for specific transactions and other events. So each account and element inside the statement of financial position, syempre po may sarili-sarili siyang IAS. For example, IAS 2 for inventories, IAS 16 for property, plant, and equipment, IAS 40 for investment property, IAS 41 for agriculture, no, biological assets. So ganun po yung gusto niyang sabihin. You prepare financial statements under IAS 1 but the items and elements inside the financial statements should be based on the other IFRSs na binanggit ko po sa inyo as examples. Okay, so let's define some terms that will help you in your understanding nung ating mga provisions ng paragraphs and sentences of the standard. Okay. General purpose financial statements or hereinafter referred to basically as the financial statements are those intended to meet the needs of users who are not in a position to require an entity to prepare reports tailored to their particular information needs. When we say general purpose financial statements, the general purpose financial statements are prepared panglahatan. You are not in the position as a user of accounting information to request or require an entity for specific purposes, no, ng financial statements. So, ang pag-uusapan po natin under IAS 1 are financial statements only for general purposes. Panglahatan po, hindi po specific purposes. Okay? And then we also have impracticable. When can we say that an item or a provision is impracticable? Applying a requirement from the standard is impracticable when the entity cannot apply it after making every reasonable effort to do so. So you have already exerted all of the efforts para lang ma-apply yung sinasabi dun sa standard pero hindi talaga kaya ng entity. Yun po yung sinasabi nating a provision or a requirement is impracticable. Then we also have International Financial Reporting Standards. So the IFRSs are standards and interpretation issued by the International Accounting Standards Board or the IASB. Ano po ang laman niya? Yung mismo mga IFRSs po natin, the International Financial Reporting Standards, IFRS 1, which is first-time adoption of the International Financial Reporting Standards hanggang IFRS 17, insurance contracts. Yun po yun. And then we also have the International Accounting Standards from IAS 1, Presentation of Financial Statements, to IAS 41, Agriculture. Okay? And then we also have the interpretations from IFRIC, or the International Financial Reporting Interpretations Committee, and interpretations from SIC, or the Standard Interpretations Committee. Yan po ang laman nung sinasabi nating IFRS. So, pag sinabing IFRS, yan pong apat na yun yung laman. IFRS, IAS, IFRIC interpretation, SIC interpretation. Material. Information is material if omitting, misstating, or obscuring it could reasonably be expected to influence decisions that the primary users of general-purpose financial statements make on the basis of those financial statements which provide financial information about a specific reporting entity. When we say material, when we say materiality, if that information is omitted, if that information is misstated, or talagang nawala siya, or talagang hindi siya na-include, no, it would influence the decision maker on the user of the FS, no, na para bang talagang magbabago ang kanyang desisyon, magbabago ang kanyang pananaw kapag ka natanggal ito or hindi natin i-report or may mali dito sa item na to. There is no specific percentage and there is no specific amount as to materiality, no? Wala po tayong sinaset na amount na, kapag ka 100,000, material na yan. Kapag ka 80,000, material na yan. Or kapag ka 50% of the assets nawala, material na yan. Wala po tayong ganun, no? There is no specific definition of the measurement of materiality. But let me give you an example. If an entity has total assets of 25,000 lang, and you have omitted or misstated an information amount to, let's say, 20,000, that's really material. But if you are a multi-peso or multi-billion peso or multi-billion dollar company, and then may mawawalang 10 to 20,000, baka medyo immaterial pa siya, no, sa entity. When can we say that an item is material? It's kapag ka po nawala siya or namali siya, talagang magkakaroon po siya ng influence sa decision or magkakaroon po siya ng talagang malaking impact na pag nawala to or pag mali itong amount na to, magbabago yung decision ko. Yun po yung sinasabi nating materiality or an item is material. It has no specific percentage, it has no specific amount. Okay, notes naman, or the notes to financial statements, contain information in addition to that presented in the statement of financial position and other financial statements. Ang laman po ng notes to financial statements, baka narrative description, disaggregation, supporting computations ng mga items na nakapresent po sa ating financial statements. Now, regarding the notes to financial statements, we will be talking more of that in lesson 4 when we will be discussing the statement of cash flows and the notes to financial statements. But in its lightest sense, pag sinabi pong notes to financial statements, nandun po ang company information, summary of significant accounting policies, nandun din po yung ating supporting calculations and other disaggregations that would support the amounts presented on the face of the financial statements. And then we also have other comprehensive income. Lahat po yan ng items ng income and expenses, which also includes your reclassification adjustments that are not recognized in profit or loss, yung talagang basic mong income statement as required or permitted by other IFRSs. Now, yung ating pong other comprehensive income ay didiscuss po natin sa lesson 3, which is the statement of comprehensive income and the statement of changes in equity. And then we also have the term owners. These are the holders of instruments classified as equity. So when you are a holder of an equity instrument, let's say for example, common stock or preferred stock, alam naman natin, 'di ba? When you hold shares, you are or you hold ownership, 'di ba? And when you have ownership, you are an owner, 'di ba? Okay, so further discussion on our owner's equity, partner's equity, and shareholder's equity will be included din po sa ating lesson 3, statement of comprehensive income and statement of changes in equity. Profit or loss is the total of income less expenses, including the components of excluding the components of OCI. So, yan lang po yung alam nating revenue and expenses and yung ating pong gains and losses relating to peripheral transactions, no? Doon din po natin yan i-discuss sa lesson 3. Reclassification adjustments are amounts reclassified to profit or loss in the current period that were recognized in other comprehensive income in the current and previous period. So sabi nga po kanina, pag sinabing OCI, kasama po dun yung mga reclassification adjustments. So pag-aaralan naman din po natin yan sa lesson 3. Okay, let's now talk about the purpose of financial statements. Financial statements are a structured representation of the financial position and financial performance of an entity. It shows you how the company is doing and what the company is now. When I say what the company or how the company is doing, what is their performance financially? And that is your profit, diba? Are they doing well? Are they profitable? And when we say what the company is now, what is their current financial condition? Ibig sabihin, balance sheet or their statement of financial position. Now, ang ating pong objective, bakit po ba tayo magre-release ng financial statement? It is to provide information about, number 1, the financial position, number 2, financial performance, yung profit or loss ng company, and cash flows of an entity. That is useful to a wide range of users, pwedeng internal users of accounting information like your owners and managers, or external users of accounting information like the government and the general public. Okay? Which is, para saan daw po nila gagamitin yung ating mga financial statements in making economic decisions. And actually, that is the very definition of accounting. You provide quantitative information which is financial in nature about economic entities that is intended to be useful in making economic decisions and in making reasoned choices among alternative courses of action. Okay, so ang objective po ng financial statements is we provide information about how they perform, how are they doing, what's their current condition, and the cash flows of the entity. At gagamitin daw po nila yung information na yon in decision making. Okay? Financial statements also show the results of the management's stewardship of the resources entrusted to it. Paano nila pinangasiwan na, mali yung Tagalog ko, paano nila pinangasiwaan yung kanilang, lalim kasi, yung kanilang resources at paano nila inalagaan and ano yung resulta nung pag-aalaga at paggamit nila ng mga resources na kanilang na-entrust po sa kanila, no? Pinagkatiwala sa kanila. Paano nila nagamit ng mainam yung mga blessings na meron sila. Parang ganun po yun. So, maipapakita ng financial statements kung paano po nagamit ng entity yung resources na meron sila. O, ganun lang kadali yun. Okay. Now, as you know, no, ito naman po yung mga elements ng financial statements. So basically, yun po i-report natin. Financial statements will provide you an information regarding assets, liabilities, equity, income and expenses, and gains and losses, contributions by and distributions to owners in their capacity as owners. Basically, nasa capital statement po yan. And syempre, cash flows. Lahat daw po ng elements na ito, kasama po ng lahat ng i-explain mo sa notes to financial statements will be able to assist users of the financial statements in predicting the entity's future cash flows and in particular, their timing and certainty. Sama na po natin, decision making. Okay, ano po ba daw dapat ang laman ng complete set of financial statements? Ito po. Your statement of financial position as at the end of the period. And then, the statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income, or also known as your statement of comprehensive income for the period, your statement of changes in equity for the period, the statement of cash flows for the period, at yung inyo pong notes to financial statements. Excuse me. Okay, so yun po yung masasabi po ninyo na complete set of financial statements. Pero meron po siyang mga additional requirements. Depende po sa circumstances ng company. Comparative information should also be presented in respect of the preceding period. Ibig sabihin ng preceding period, kung we are reporting financial statements for December 31, 2021, ire-report mo rin po ang preceding period na December 31, 2020. At yan po ay in-specify sa paragraph 38 and 38A ng ating IAS 1. Basahin ko sa inyo. Except when IFRSs permit or require otherwise, an entity shall present comparative information in respect with the preceding period for all of the amounts reported in the current period financial statements. Ibig sabihin po, pag nagpe-prepare tayo at nagpe-present ng financial statements, 2021 at 2020, 2019 at 2018, comparative information po ang nire-release natin. An entity shall present as a minimum 2 balance sheets, 2 income statements, 2 cash flows, and 2 statements of equity. And syempre, kapag ka po pinresent natin yung ating notes to financial statements, yung mga supporting calculations po natin doon and other information, dapat comparative din po. Bigyan ko kayo example. Sa ating pong company information sa notes to financial statements, minsan nire-report po kasi doon yung number of employees, no? So, yung number of employees based on payroll, re-report mo kung ilan employees for 2021 and 2020, no? So, lahat po ng information na ipe-present mo doon is comparative, no? Lalo na po on the items that you are presenting supporting calculations. Let's say, for example, what are the components of the entity's trade and other receivables? It's not just only about 2021, you should also present comparative information for 2020 on the components of the trade and other receivables. Okay, so even the notes to financial statements should include comparative information. An entity should also include a statement of financial position as at the beginning of the preceding period. Ulit beginning of the preceding period. Ibig sabihin, yung pinag-uusapan kasi natin na ipe-prepare nating FS is end of the current period. Ang requirement sa atin ng standard, ipe-present din daw po natin yung end of the preceding period. However, there is another requirement for you to present a third statement of financial position na beginning of the preceding period. So, ano po yung beginning of the preceding period? So, let's say for example, if the current period or end of the current period is December 31, 2021, the end of the preceding period is December 31, 2020. What is the beginning of the preceding period? Yung January 1, 2020, which is actually equivalent to December 31, 2019. So parang ang dating, the third statement of financial position is tatlo yung i-report mong taon. Kailan daw po nangyayari to? When an entity applies an accounting policy retrospectively or makes a retrospective restatement of the items in its financial statements or when it reclassifies items in the financial statements. When you will be in the lesson about IAS 8, which is about accounting policies, changes in accounting estimates, and errors, meron po tayong tinatawag na changes in accounting policy. Ang example po noon, for example, yung iyo pong inventories from FIFO, bigla mong ginawang weighted average. Or kabaliktaran, galing ka sa weighted average method, bigla ka nag-FIFO. Ang ating pong pag-a-apply ng accounting policy at presentation natin in the financial statement should be retrospectively. Ibig sabihin ng retrospectively, yung current period, pabalik. Kailangan siya rin i-restate mo. Kasi hindi po pwede na yung 2021 mong inventories naka-FIFO, tapos i-report mo yung 2020 mo, yung preceding period mo na inventories naka-weighted average. Hindi po pwede yon. Kung FIFO to, dapat i-restate mo yung last year na naka-FIFO din siya. No? Ganun po yung sinasabi nating retrospective application of a change in accounting policy. Pag sinabing retrospective, you are presenting financial information in that accounting policy as if you have applied that accounting policy from the start. As if ganun na siya noon pa. no? Yun po yung sinasabi nating retrospective application. Ano naman po yung kabaliktaran? Prospective application. Yan naman po yung ina-apply natin sa accounting estimate. Kunyari, nag-change ka lang ng depreciation method o kaya nag-change ka lang ng number of years ng life ng asset. So, yung depreciation mo mag-change current and future periods na hindi nakasama yung mga previous period. Okay? So, ang requirement po natin sa standard, there will be a third statement of financial position when there is a change in accounting policy because you need to report and present the amounts retrospectively. Kung FIFO ang current period mo, dapat lahat ng inventory mo FIFO method. Nagkakaintindihan po sana tayo on that. Okay? Now, ito po yung sinasabi natin na tungkol po dun sa retrospective application. An entity shall present a third statement of financial position as at the beginning of the preceding period in addition to the minimum 2 comparisons lang, 2021 tsaka 2020, if there is a retrospective of accounting policy or a retrospective restatement or reclassification at meron po siyang material effect kapag pinresent na natin sa Statement of Financial Position. Ano daw po dapat ang component? Meron po tayong meron tayong balance sheet, meron tayong Statement of Financial Position ng end of the recurrent period, December 31, 2020, end of the preceding period, December 31, end of the current period, December 31, 2021, end of the preceding period, December 31, 2020, and then beginning of the preceding period, January 1, 2020, which is also equivalent to December 31, 2019. Yun po yung ibig sabihin ng 3 statements of financial position. Just to make it very simple, ganito lang po yan. December 31, 2021, December 31, 2020, tsaka December 31, 2019. Okay? Kasi in December 31, 2019, January 1, 2020 po yun. Yun yung sinasabi po nating beginning of the preceding period. Okay? So that's how you interpret that sentence in the standard. An entity may use titles for the statements other than those that are mentioned in the standard, no? For example, the prescribed title for your income statement and comprehensive income in IAS 1 is actually Statement of Profit or Loss and Other Comprehensive Income. But if you find it fit, you can just simply call it the Statement of Comprehensive Income. IAS 1 allows you to use a title other than those that are listed in IAS 1. Basically, if it will maybe make it more understandable, no? But I suggest you stick with what the standard tells you, diba? No? However, yun nga lang, meron tayong however. IAS 1 under paragraph 10 tells you that you may use titles other than that is mentioned in the standard. Actually, guys, under US GAAP or the US Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, sila kasi ang gamit nila doon, hindi naman Statement of Financial Position, balance sheet. Talagang as in yung mga FS nila, pag tinignan nyo yung mga balance sheet nila, the title is really balance sheet, no? However, US GAAP kasi yun, no? So, eto kasi, IFRS tayo in the Philippines, no? We're using the Philippine adaptation of your IFRS, which is your PFRS. So, kung sinabi sa ating IFRS na pwede ka naman daw gumamit ng ibang title na mag-fit dun sa financial statement na yon, you are permitted to do so, no? But I suggest we stick with the standard. Okay. An entity shall present with equal prominence all of the financial statements in a complete set of financial statements. No financial statements would be more important than any other. Okay? All of them should have equal prominence. All of them are important. Okay? Now, let's talk about the different general features of financial statements and how we can apply them. Okay? So, the first one is fair presentation and compliance with IFRS. Financial statements shall present fairly the financial position, financial performance, and cash flows of an entity. When can you say that you can achieve fair presentation? Faithful representation of the events of the effects of transactions, other events, and conditions in accordance with the definition and recognition criteria for assets, liabilities, income, and expenses na sinabi sa conceptual framework. The application of IFRS with additional disclosure when necessary is presumed to result in financial statements that achieve a fair presentation. So, summarizing what paragraph 15 tells us, ang sabi po is, number 1, para maging fair presentation daw po, or ma-achieve natin yung fair presentation, there is a faithful representation of all of the transactions and events. Number 2, ni-recognize mo daw po lahat ng elements of financial statements na assets, liabilities, income, and expenses base sa kung paano siya dinescribe at dinefine sa conceptual framework. And number 3, ma-achieve daw po natin ang fair presentation kung sinunod po natin and we are compliant with the IFRS. Only then we can say that we have a fair presentation of the FS. Pag na-achieve natin yung tatlong sinabi ko. Okay? Faithful representation of the events, the elements of the financial statements are recognized using the definition in the conceptual framework, and sinunod po natin yung sinabi ng IFRS sa ating mga accounts. Okay? Yun po yung fair presentation. Okay, let's continue. So, going concern, no? Going back to that basic assumption of going concern assumption, di ba? The financial statement should be prepared in a sense that the entity will not be closing down and they will continue in operations indefinitely. Okay? So, walang sarahan. Parang ang tingin natin sa company, forever siya. No? When preparing financial statements, ano daw pong responsibility ng management? They shall make an assessment of an entity's ability to continue as a going concern. An entity shall prepare financial statements on a going concern basis, puwera na lang kung the management intends to liquidate or magsa-stop na sila ng operations. Okay? So basically, if the entity is planning to close down, they should not prepare financial statements on a going concern basis. Okay? When the management is aware, after ng kanilang assessment, that there are uncertainties na meron na pong doubts na going concern pa ba talaga tayo, ang requirement po sa kanila ng IAS 1, you disclose, no? Yung mga uncertainties na nakikita mo na baka po kasi kami magsara na dahil. Parang gano'n, no? When an entity does not prepare financial statements on a going concern basis, it shall disclose the fact together with the basis on which it prepared the financial statements at yung reason kung bakit hindi na po sila going concern. Okay? So, just to summarize this, number 1, ang gustong sabihin dito is, an entity shall present financial statements and prepare financial statements with a going concern assumption in mind. Number 2, kailangan gumawa ni management ng assessment, no? Kung meron bang material uncertainties or wala, na sila ay magko-continue ba as going concern. Kung sakali na may makita silang material uncertainties, dun po papasok yung number 3. I-disclose po nila yung mga reason kung bakit hindi na sila regarded as a going concern. Okay? So, yun po yung ating next feature. Our next feature is an entity shall prepare financial statements using the accrual basis of accounting. So, we have already discussed this in the previous lesson. No? So, except po syempre sa cash flows, no? Kasi ang cash flows ay inflow and outflow of cash. Basically, that's the financial statement that is being prepared under the cash basis of accounting. Pag ginamit daw po natin ang accrual basis of accounting, no? Ang sistema is parang your assets, liabilities, equity, income, and expenses daw po ay kung paano mo siya ni-recognize, parang yung sinabi ko rin kanina, is kung paano po siya define sa conceptual framework. So, kasama po sa feature ng accrual basis of accounting is when you recognize the items in the financial statements, when you recognize those elements, it's based on the definition criteria in the conceptual framework for financial reporting. And then, materiality and aggregation. Kanina na-discuss natin yung concept ng materiality, no? Hanggat material daw po ang isang item, you present it separately. Pero, merong pero ha, kung sa tingin mo ay medyo immaterial naman, baka pwede na nating pagsamasamahin. No? Ang tawag po doon, aggregation. For example, office and store supplies, pwede mo na i-aggregate yun. No? Kasi kung pakiramdam mo naman hindi siya ganun ka-material, 'di ba? Na may magbabago bang decision sa company kapag ka naka-present siya as total supplies lang versus nakahiwalay na office supplies and store supplies? No, I don't think so. 'Di ba? So depende po talaga sa judgment din ng magbabasa. But if in your professional judgment it's immaterial, then you can aggregate, no? Pero ang requirement po sa atin ng standard is if the item is material, you need to present it separately. Okay? Next feature po natin is offsetting. Bawal. The general rule is bawal po tayo mag-offset ng asset versus liability at saka income versus expense. Yung revenue mo, present mo separately. Yung expenses mo, present mo separately. Kailan lang siya mag-offset? Pag pinresent mo na yung net income sa ilalim, di ba? Ganun lang. But you present it separately pa din. Okay? Bawal ka rin po mag-offset ng assets versus liabilities, lalo na yung mga related. For example, kung may deferred tax asset ka, report mo. Pero kung may deferred tax liability ka, report mo din. Parang ganon. No? So, basta ganon siya. Okay? Bawal kang mag-offset. Pero, kung permitted siya ng ibang IFRS, kung permitted siya ng ibang standard, edi go offset mo kung pwede, no? Kung sinabi sa standard na pwede ka mag-offset, i-offset mo. Okay? However kasi, ang iniiwasan po kasi natin sa offsetting, pag offsetting kasi mawawala na yung isa nakaneto na siya, di ba? Nakanet na. It might affect the understandability din kasi, di ba? So, ang magandang gawin, wag ka mag-offset. At saka, sinabi rin naman ng IFRS na wag ka mag-offset. So, wag. Okay? IAS 1 tells us not to offset. So, don't offset. Okay. Now, frequency of reporting. Financial statements under IAS 1 should be reported at least annually. Now, kung medyo meron kakaibang trip yung company mo na merong longer period reporting or shorter period reporting, kailangan po ng disclosure kung bakit po kayo magpe-present ng FS na longer than 1 year or shorter than 1 year, and the fact that the amounts in the financial statements are not entirely comparable. For example, the entity just opened April 1, 2018. So pag pag preparation mo na ng 2019 financial statements, i-disclose mo na hindi siya entirely comparable. Kasi yung 2019 mo ay isang taon. Pero yung 2018 mo, April na siya nag-start. Kasi April nag-start yung company. Yung mga ganong rasonan, no? Kailangan mo i-disclose yon. Now, if an entity actually presents financial information shorter than 1 year, ang tawag po natin dyan ay interim financial reporting. And we have a separate lesson for that. And then last feature naman po natin is yung tinatawag natin comparative information. Ayun nga po, no? So, like what I've discussed you earlier, the minimum requirement of the standard is to present comparative information. No? Dalawang balance sheet, dalawang income statement, dalawang capital statement, dalawang cash flow. At pati po lahat ng ating explanations and supporting calculations in your notes to FS, naka-comparative din po. 2-year presentation. Ayun po, sinabi ko na pala dito. Ito na. 2 balance sheets, 2 income statements, 2 cash flows, 2 changes in equity. Okay. And then, nasabi ko na pala last na yung kanina. Ito pala yung may susunod pa pala isa, sorry. Okay, consistency of presentation. Okay, so an entity shall retain the presentation and classification of items in the financial statements from one period unless meron pong significant change or merong changes in accounting policies. And then, meron pong requirement sa ating accounting standard na nagre-require sa'yo ng change in presentation, no? Ang gusto po kasi nating mangyari, consistency in a sense that We want to be consistent so that it's also comparable, no? How you presented one thing in this previous period should also be the way how you present it this year, no? Kailangan po talaga consistent yung ating pagpe-present ng financial information, okay? So, yun po. Now, the entity shall clearly identify the financial statements and distinguish them from other information in the same published document. Kadalasan po kasi entities present their financial statements kasama po ng annual report, no? So your financial statements should be clearly identified. And syempre, kada title ng FS dapat malinaw din. Okay? And then there is also a requirement for entities to clearly identify the financial statements and the notes and display the following information prominently. Kitang-kita dapat. The name of the reporting entity or other means of identification. Ano ibig sabihin? Meron kasing mga company na magkaiba ang official registered name sa doing business under, no? ABC Company, doing business under, Starlight Company, mga ganon, no? So, the name of the reporting entity, sasama po mo po yung other means of identification. Kasi syempre, mas kilala ng company yung Starlight Company mo kaysa yung ABC Company mo, di ba? So, present mo sila pareho. Okay? Pe-present mo rin daw po kung meron change sa ganong information. Whether the financial statements are of an individual entity or group of entities, no? Pag sinabi pong group of entities, meron po tayong parent-subsidiary relationship, no? Pang-advanced accounting po kasi yan. So, pag-aaralan nyo po siya sa accounting for business combinations. If the financial statements are for a group of entities, you will be applying IFRS 3 business combinations and IFRS 10 consolidated financial statements. Pagka naman po individual entity, you will be applying IAS 27 separate financial statements. Okay? So, dapat daw po clearly identified kung separate FS siya or consolidated FS. Matututunan nyo po yung mga consolidated FS sa advanced accounting, no? Sa accounting for business combinations. The date of the end of the reporting period or the period covered by the FS, syempre, dapat po malinaw kasi we are on the concept of timeliness. So, dapat ma-report natin ng maayos kung kailan talaga at ano po yung period covered. And then presentation currency as defined in IAS 21. That's the accounting standard related to foreign exchange. Okay? And then syempre, kung sakali man pong may rounding off kayong ginawa, explain nyo po ng maayos. And now, let's talk about the statement of financial position. Ito naman, madali na sa inyo to kasi some of these are actually discussed with you in your lower year levels or in senior high school. So, I don't think this is much heavy for you, no? Madali lang to for you. Okay. The statement of financial position reports the financial condition of the entity as a particular date. Ano daw po ang pinapresent natin? Economic resources or your assets, economic obligations of your liabilities, and syempre yung equity mo. It is a detailed representation of the accounting equation where your assets is equal to liabilities plus equity. The statement of financial position shall include line items that present the following amounts. Sinabi po mismo sa IAS 1, ano po ba ang ating mga line items na dapat makita sa balance sheet or sa statement of financial position? Isa-isahin po natin. Property, plant, and equipment and kung paano mo po siya in-account under IAS 16. Investment property, which is under IAS 40. Intangible assets under IAS 38. Financial statements other than, financial assets. Financial assets other than E, yung ating po mga investments, H, receivables, and I, cash. Okay? And then, meron po tayong D sub A, bagong add yan sa standard. Groups of contracts within the scope of IFRS 17 that are assets. IFRS 17 is insurance contracts. So, meron po tayong mga separate assets and liabilities na dapat i-report. So, we just dig deeper when we are already in IFRS 17 discussion. Investments accounted for using the equity method. Basically, that's your investment in associate. pag meron kang significant influence, di ba? If you remember, yan, pasok yan. Biological assets under IAS 41 Agriculture, inventories under IAS 2, and then trade and other receivables, cash and cash equivalents, and the total of assets classified as held for sale in accordance with IFRS 5, non-current assets held for sale and discontinued operations. And then sa liabilities naman po natin, yung trade and other payables, provisions, and other financial liabilities na hindi payables and provisions. And then, katulad din po nung kanina, mga groups of contracts na separate liabilities that are set out within the scope of IFRS 17 insurance contracts. And then, ang ating pong liabilities and assets for current tax and deferred tax liabilities and deferred tax assets under IAS 12. And then, yung ating pong mga liabilities and disposal group under IFRS 5. Now, tungkol po dito, equity portion po kasi ito, no? Yung letter Q natin, non-controlling interest presented within equity. Lumalabas po kasi ito sa consolidated financial statements. So, park nyo muna to ng konti because you will be learning that in your accounting for business combinations. Okay? And then, issued capital and reserves attributable to owners of the parent. That is also for consolidated financial statements. So, basically, the equity that we'll be talking about here is your shareholders' equity lang ng isang separate company. Okay? So, yun po. Attributable to owners of the parent. Okay? Wag nyo po na pong pansinin yun. Phrase na yun kasi pang advanced accounting po yun. Okay? So, dun po yun sa accounting for business combinations. That's basically the line items that are required po sa atin. Okay? Na i-present sa balance sheet. Okay. An entity shall present additional line items including by disaggregating the items that are listed in paragraph 54 na pinasend ko sa inyo, headings and subtotals in the statement of financial position when such presentation will add more understandability. For example, gusto mo talagang nakareport ang inventories into raw materials inventory, work in process inventory, and the finished goods inventory. Ayaw mo siyang nasa notes lang, gusto mo i-present as a separate line item. Pwede po yun, pinapayagan po tayo ng standard. Kung sa tingin mo, in your professional judgment, it would add to the understandability of the balance sheet. Pwede po yun, no? But basically, status quo kasi natin, inventories under IAS 2, yun na yun. Tapos meron lang tayong notes to FS na magpe-present ng computation kung ano po ba talaga yung laman ng inventories na yon, which is yun for a manufacturing perspective, raw materials, work in process, saka finished goods inventory. But if you think it's relevant and it will make it more understandable, you can present it on the face of the FS as additional and separate line item. Pwede po yun. Pinapayagan po tayo ng standard. Again, kung mag-a-add po siya sa understandability. Okay? Sige. When an entity presents current and non-current assets and current and non-current liabilities as separate classifications in the balance sheet, ito po, diretsahang sinabi sa standard. Pag deferred tax asset daw po, hindi daw po pwedeng current asset siya. At pag deferred tax liability, hindi po siya pwedeng current liability. In short, diretsahan pong sinabi, pag deferred tax asset, dapat non-current asset. Pag deferred tax liability, dapat non-current liability. And sinasabi din po dito sa paragraph na ito is kailangan po talaga ang ating presentation in the statement of financial position is segregated properly into current items and non-current items. However, there is an express declaration in the standard that your deferred tax assets and deferred tax liabilities should never be classified as current items. Okay? So basically, since hindi siya pinaparecord as current items, ano dapat siya? Non-current. Diretsahan yun, ha? So, wala nang mag-uusap na current ba o non-current ang deferred tax asset and liability. Kasi diretso po sinabi sa standard na dapat siya po ay nasa non-current items. Okay, so I think you already know, no, how to properly classify assets as to current and non-current, no? But just to give you a review, so syempre, an entity shall classify an asset as current kung siya po ay consumable, nagagamit, nare-realize yung asset in its normal operating cycle. Okay? Medyo iniba na kasi ng IAS 1 yung wordings, no? Pero dati kasi yan ay 12 months or normal operating cycle, whichever is longer. Kasi nga, merong mga companies na ang normal operating cycle more than 1 year eh. Di ba? Parang ganon. The asset is primarily held for the purpose of trading. Like your best example of that is inventories. Di ba? It expects to realize the asset within 12 months after the reporting period. Pasak po siya doon sa 12 months na yon. And then the asset is a cash or cash equivalent unless meron po siyang restriction. So basically, ang status ko natin, ang default natin sa cash, talaga naman po siyang current asset. Pero pag may restriction or hindi siya agad-agad withdrawable or it's nakaano siya, 'di ba? Talagang segregated for restriction, eh hindi mo siya pwedeng i-report na current asset. Okay, parang ganon. Unless the asset is restricted from being exchanged or used to settle a liability for at least 12 months after the reporting period. So basically, pag may restriction, di na siya cash and cash equivalent talaga. Okay? Pwede pa rin siya maging current, pero hindi na cash and cash equivalent. Alam nyo na yan, di ba? Yung ganyang classification natin sa cash and cash equivalents in your intermediate accounting. So, i-apply nyo rin dito. At ang sabi ng standard, the entity shall classify all other assets as non-current kung hindi siya current asset. Okay? And then for current liabilities, ganun din po, your settlement of the liability is within the normal operating cycle or nagkaroon ka ng liability because of the purpose of trading, or it can be settled within 12 months, or if the entity does not have an unconditional right to defer settlement of the liability for at least 12 months after the reporting period, current liability pa rin po siya. Kasi po, kapag merong refinancing ng obligation, kahit malapit na siyang mag-due, pag meron kang power to refinance kasi, nagiging non-current siya. Later, pag-uusapan natin yan. Okay? An entity shall classify all other liabilities na hindi current as non-current. Ganun lang. Okay? Ito po yung binabanggit kong refinancing, a currently maturing obligation. Basahin po natin. If an entity expects and has the discretion, take note of that sila ang may kapangyarihan. They have the discretion to refinance or roll over an obligation for at least 12 months after the reporting period, it classifies the obligation, diretso yan sinabi sa standard, non-current, even if it would otherwise be due within a shorter period. However, kung wala pong kapangyarihan ng entity tungkol dyan sa mga refinancing or rolling over of the liability, the entity does not consider the potential to refinance the obligation at ang classification niya pa rin po current. So, ibig sabihin, if there is a discretion or an expectation to refinance a currently maturing obligation, then it becomes a non-current liability na agad. Okay, so as you know, the statement of financial position is a representation of the accounting equation, which is your assets is equals to liabilities plus capital. However, in your statement of financial position, it should be presented like this. There is a distinction between current and non-current items. Okay, so just to give you a refresher on this, an account form balance sheet or statement of financial position has the assets on the left side and liabilities and capital on the right side, which makes it look like a T account. Kaya siya tinawag na account form kasi ang assets natin may normal debit balance at ang ating liabilities and capital ay may normal credit balance. Kaya po siya tinawag na account form kasi mukha siyang account. Mukha siyang T account. Mukha siyang ledger. Pag report form naman po, assets on the upper portion, liabilities and capital on the lower portion. Okay? Pero practically, no, in practice, sa labas, sa companies, no. Karamihan naman po ng nire-release na FS ay report form, no. Wala pa po ako nakikita nag-prepare ng account form na balance sheet, no. But yun po kasi yung industry norm talagang pababa, no report form. Okay, sige po. We have already discussed your theories for IAS 1 regarding to financial statements and a statement of financial position. Let's answer this comprehensive problem in the preparation of your statement of financial position. The December 31, 2021 real accounts of the Raymond Company are provided as follows. The requirement for you is to prepare the statement of financial position as at December 31, 2021 with proper notes to financial statements. Okay. Ganito gagawin natin mga kapatid, no? Since the preparation of a statement of financial position is not really new to you, I strongly suggest you, because we already have the given here in the problem, baka try nyo munang sagutan, no? Mas maganda siguro, try nyo munang sagutan, try nyo munang balansehin, and prepare the statement of financial position first on your own. So, you pause the video, you stop the video first with the given here sa ating problem, tapos sagutan nyo siya, no? Gawin nyo mismo yung FS, no? Kahit wag na muna siguro yung notes, or kung gusto nyo na rin i-try gawin yung notes to FS, wala namang problema. No? However, since preparation of a balance sheet is not new to you already, I strongly suggest you stop or pause the video for the meantime and then you try to answer it. And then when you're ready, saka nyo panoorin itong solution na meron tayo sa ating mga next slides. Okay? So, yun po. Well, assuming that you have paused the video and that you have stopped the video and tried answering this problem, I will now present to you the answer. Okay, step 1. Categorize nga natin. Sige, ganito po gagawin natin ha. Ito po yung ating mga items na nakapresent kanina. I hope kita po yung amount dito. Baka mukha ko yung nakalagay dito. No? Withholding taxes payable is 80,000. Okay, tas nandito yung classification niya. Babanggitin ko na lang kasi nakaharang yata yung mukha ko dito sa baba. Okay, classify natin siya kung current asset, non-current asset, current liability, non-current liability, or equity. Babanggitin ko yung account title, sagutin nyo sa isip nyo, tas mako-confirm naman kung tama, hindi ba? Okay, sige. Accounts payable, yan po ay current liab, di ba? Accounts receivable ay current asset. Accumulated amortization natin sa patent, you will categorize that as non-current asset, pero contra, di ba? Contra asset yan Accumulated amortization ng trademark, that's a no-brainer, di ba? NCA din yan. How about your accumulated depreciation for building? That is also an NCA, and that's also a contra asset. How about your accumulated depreciation for your equipment? That's also a non-current asset, contra asset. Allowance for uncollectible accounts will fall under current asset, pero that will be deducted to your accounts receivable. Appropriated retained earnings is equity. Bonds payable due in 2023. Okay, this is my suggestion, my tip for you. In all of the problems that you will encounter in the statement of financial position, please take a very close look kung kailan po due yung bonds payable. Kasi maraming estudyante nagkakamali dyan porke nabasa bonds payable, non-current liab agad. Hindi po ganun yun. Titignan nyo kung kailan siya due. At titignan mo rin kung term bond or serial bond siya. Okay? Yung mga ganon. Now, in our problem, it's due in 2023. So, yan po ay non-current liab. Kasi ang pinag-uusapan natin dito, December 31, 2021. Pero kung sakali, ito ay due in 2022, that's already next year, kung ang pinag-uusapan natin ay December 31, 2021, at due in 2022 siya, ay current liab na yan. Okay? Tsaka check nyo ha kung term bond or serial bond. Kasi pag term bond, isahan lang ang settlement, di ba? Pero pag serial bond, taon-taon ang settlement. So, paano kung 5 years, di ba? So, meron siyang current portion, meron siyang non-current portion. So, na-discuss naman dapat na sa inyo yan nung intermediate accounting. No? So, dapat i-refresh nyo yung sarili nyo kung paano properly mag-present sa FS ng bonds payable. So, yun yung mga things na kailangan nyo i-consider. Kung term bond or serial bond at saka kung kailan siya due. Kasi baka next year na pala due, current liability na siya. Okay? Buildings is a non-current asset. Cash and cash equivalents, that's a no-brainer. Current asset. Deferred tax liability is diretsong-diretso. Sinabi sa standard na siya ay non-current liability. Discount on bonds payable, syempre, you will relate that to the bonds payable. So, that is also an NCL. Equipment, that is a non-current asset. Income tax payable, so since hindi naman, diretso lang naman sinabi, so current liability po yan. Inventory is current asset. Investment in associate is non-current asset. Okay? And then yung land, that's a PPE, so basically that's non-current asset as well. Ordinary share capital, that is equity. Share premium for preference shares, that is equity. Share premium for ordinary shares, that is equity. Patents is non-current asset. Preference share capital, that is equity. Retained earnings is equity. Salaries payable is current liability. Share dividends distributable, baka malito, pag cash dividends payable, liability po yun. Pero, pag stock dividends, ang distributable, that is only a transfer from one equity account to the other. Specifically, a transfer from retained earnings going to share capital kapag naibigay na yung mga shares na yan, di ba? So, that is an equity account. Okay? Trademarks po natin is non-current asset. Trading securities is a, ano po yan? Yan yung mga marketable equity security, that is current asset. And then withholding tax payable is a current liability. Kapag ka po na-categorize nyo na yung item, mas madali nang mag-isa-isa. So, ang gagawin nyo na next is you group the accounts based on their category. Huwag nyo munang diinan masyado yung sarili nyo na ipa-proper presentation nyo muna. Ang gawin nyo, ganito muna. Yan. Group nyo muna siya para matry nyo na agad yung amount ng current asset, non-current asset, i-total nyo. Tapos current and non-current liab, tsaka equity, i-total nyo din. So, pag nagbangga, ibig sabihin, wala na kayong problema. You just have to prepare your financial statements in good form. 'Di ba? Kung makikita nyo dito, ang ginawa ko ay siya po ay naka-categorize pa lang. Pero hindi pa po siya naka-sincere presentation. Hindi pa po siya properly presented. Ginroup ko muna para matest ko yung amount ng assets versus liabilities and equity. Okay? After you have grouped the accounts, it's time for you now to prepare the necessary notes. Okay? So, papakita ko na lang yung notes at kung paano siya gawin. Note number 3 is about trade and other receivables. Okay, so, sir, bakit note number 3? Huwag kayo mag-start sa note number 1 kasi yan po ay company information minsan. Ay, di, madalas. No? At ang note number 2 po kasi ay summary of significant accounting policies minsan. So, kung meron man po kayong presentation ng mga amount, usually, nagsistart na siya note 3, or pag marami pang in-explain yung company, note 4, note 5, note 6, note 7 na nga mismo ang cash no? Sa ibang company na medyo malalaki, kung marami silang dinisclose, no? Na hindi pa calculations, ayun, minsan nga po, nasa note 7 na ang cash. Okay, so, in your trade and other receivables, you just have to present the net realizable value of your receivables. Okay, which will give you 107,000. For property, plant, and equipment naman po, sir, bakit yung land natin 300,000 na lang? Ayan, ito ang pag-usapan natin. If you would remember kanina, yung land daw po natin ay amounted at 1,300,000. Pero meron po doon, parang kabibili lang nila, di ba? Worth 1 million, pero undetermined future use. Balik po tayo sa konsepto nyo sa intermediate accounting. When there is a land acquired by the company with an undetermined future use. Hindi pa alam kung anong gagawin. Hindi mo po siya ipepresent as land in your PPE. That is an investment property. Land with undetermined future use. Kaya po, yung 1 million na yon, mamaya makikita nyo sa investment property. Ang land lang po talaga natin that will be categorized as PPE is your 300,000 pesos na land. Tapos ganun lang din po, kung ano yung amount ng building, less accumulated depreciation, and your equipment, less accumulated depreciation. You get the total, that is your net amount of PPE. Okay, ganun din po sa intangibles, kung ano man po yung intangible assets nyo, ay present nyo lang po yung kanilang net amount after deducting accumulated amortization. Okay? So, yun po yung ating intangible assets. Ang ating intangible assets po sa problem ay patents and trademarks. Trade and other payables naman po ay yung ating pong mga basically for trading and for normal operations. Now, kung mapapansin nyo, hindi ko sinama si income tax payable kasi kunyari, ako ay isang company, no? And ang judgment ko, ang professional judgment ko ng understanding is I want to properly present my income tax payable so that the BIR, when they look on my FS, they can already see my income tax payable. Pwede rin naman ganon, no? Ang gusto natin kasi mangyari, understandability. Nonetheless, actually, your income tax payable can also be included as an aggregated amount inside trade and other payables, no? But for these purposes, ang mindset ko kasi, kung titignan ng BIR ang iyong financial statements, at least kita agad nila sa iyong financial statements yung income tax payable mo. Mas mabilis makita, di ba? Understandability talaga. Okay? Not just only with that government agency, but in totality, if you want really your tax information to be as understandable as possible, present mo siya sa face of the FS, income tax payable. Pwede yon. Okay? And then, syempre, yung bonds payable mo, don't forget, pag discount on a bonds payable, binaminus, pag premium, pa-add naman po siya. Okay? On the face value. Okay, and then, syempre, your share capital includes your preference shares, your ordinary shares, and your share dividends distributable. Sama nyo po siya kasi that is at par value. Okay? And then your reserves includes all of your premiums and appropriated retained earnings. Then present natin separately mamaya yung unappropriated retained earnings mo. So your step 4 now is kapag ka nagawa mo na yung notes, so pagtutugmain mo na siya, di ba? Prepare the balance sheet itself. So this is our completed statement of financial position. Baka magreklamo kayo, bakit maliit? O di ito, syempre iisa-isahin natin. Okay? So the name of the company, then you write the title of the financial statement. Diba? Ni-require yan ng standard na dapat klaro. And then, as at December 31, 2021, just a gentle reminder, ang ating pong statement of financial position is as at a specific time period. Ito na ang amount ng aking assets, liabilities, and equity as at December 31. Wala po akong makikita sa inyo na gagawa ng balance sheet na ang nakalagay po ay for the year ended. That is a mortal sin, sabi ni Professor Robles. Okay? So, wag nyo pong gagawin yon. Okay. Let's first talk about your current assets. Paano po siya i-develop? Ganito po. Yung cash and cash equivalents natin, standalone yan. So, wala siyang note na separate. Tapos, kung mapapansin po ninyo, gumawa tayo ng computation ng net realizable value ng ating receivables, which is 107,000. So, lalagay po natin siya doon, 107,000 under note number 3. Okay? And then, yung ating pong trading securities, marketable equity securities is at 61,000. Inventory is 322,000. Okay? So, since wala pong notes to FS dun sa inventory, baka merchandise inventory lang to. Kasi wala po tayong separate na calculation ng raw materials, work in process, and finished goods. So, baka po tong inventory na to, merchandise inventory. One kind lang. Okay? So, we have total current assets of 525,000. Check nyo po lagi yung pagkakabangga ng notes to FS on the face of the FS. Kung 107,000 ang nireport sa notes to FS na trade and other receivables, yun po dapat yung trade and other receivables na nakalagay sa notes, sa inyong face of the financial statements. Okay? So, dapat po magtutugma yung face ng FS sa notes to FS. Okay, dapat po magtutugma yan. Diretso po tayo ng non-current assets. Okay, ito po yung mga non-current assets natin kanina. Tapos ito po yung ating mga notes. Okay, so nakaharang po yung face ko yata dito. No? So, sige, usod natin ng konti. Okay, usod natin. Ayan. Ayan, kasi nakaharang yung face ko, 'di ba? Okay, ayan. Sige po. So, your property, plant, and equipment, na-compute po natin at 1,483,000 under note number 4. And then, yung intangible assets naman po natin is 141,000 under note number 5. And then, may mga standalone po tayo like your investment in associate na 250,000 and investment property na 1 million to give you total non-current assets of 2,874,000. Since kompleto na po lahat ng asset, you can add your current plus non-current. You have your total assets of 3,399,000. Okay, let's proceed with your current liability section. Ayan po. So, ito po yung mga current liabilities natin. Hindi ko po sinama, sabi ko nga sa inyo, yung income tax payable on the professional judgment that I want my tax information to be understandable. Parang gano'n, okay? So, ang laman lang po ng trade and other payables natin is your accounts payable, salaries, and withholding tax payable, which is 336,000. But hindi mo po, sir, nilabas yung withholding taxes payable kung gusto mong maging clear yung iyong tax information on the FS. Withholding taxes payable po kasi ay tungkol sa mga pasahod natin at magkano yung kinaltas nating tax sa mga pasahod natin sa empleyado. Hindi po siya related dun sa tax na binabayaran natin due to our operations na income tax. Kaya, sinama ko yung withholding tax payable inside trade and other payables. And, again, I need to reiterate, pwede nyo rin naman pong ipasok ang income tax payable sa loob ng trade and other payables because kaya ka nga po merong income tax payable because of your operations and that is a trading transaction, no? Parang ganon, no? So, pwede mo siya ipasok doon. But nonetheless, due to the concept of understandability, pwede mo siya ilabas para mas maging understandable. Okay? So, your total current liabilities is 486,000. And then, your non-current liabilities po, ito po siya kanina, no? And then, meron lang po tayong note number 7 na bonds payable which is 701,000. Meron tayong standalone na deferred tax liability na 50,000 which is 751,000. Pag nakuha nyo na po pareho yung current and non-current liabilities, this is your total liabilities. And then, syempre po sa equity ay share capital po natin ay magkakasama po si share capital na preference, ordinary share capital, at saka po stock dividends distributable. 1,534,000 sabi ni note number 8. And then reserves naman po is 366,000 under note number 9. Yung ate pong unappropriated retained earnings na 262,000, standalone po siya. Report natin separately. For a total shareholders equity of 2,162,000. So, dapat po magbabangga, ganun din po dapat ang amount ng iyong total liabilities and equity. And that's how you present your statement of financial position. And I have chosen to prepare it using the report form presentation. Yun nga lang po, ang sabi nga po sa atin, di ba, ng ating accounting standards, sabi po ng IAS 1, dapat daw po ang presentation natin ng FS ay comparative. So, let's say, for example, meron tayong 2020 information, pero X na lang yung ginamit ko just to show you how it looks like. Ganito po siya dapat, no? Comparative information. Kasi ang minimum requirement po sa atin, 2 statements of financial position. So, kung mapapansin nyo po, dapat nagbago din yung tawag. Hindi na siya dapat statement of financial position. Statements of financial position. Okay? May kulang pala ako dito, sorry. Dapat po nakalagay dyan as at December 31, 2021 and 2020. Or pwede rin as at December 31. Yung ibang companies naman po ang ginagawa as at December 31. Ganun lang. Kasi nakaspecify na po dito yung 2021 tsaka 2020. So, depende naman po. No? Ang mahalaga naman maintindihan yung ating balance sheet at yung laman niya inside at yung time period na covered niya. Okay. Sorry po ha, may konting mali lang po ako dito. Dapat nakalagay dyan kung gusto ko talaga i-specify as at December 31, 2021 and 2020. Okay? So, ganun po yun. So, ganyan po itsura niya. Imagine nyo na lang, itong 2020 may amounts dyan, kunyari. No? So, dapat po, ganyan yung ating presentation, comparative. Okay, I hope that you got 3,399,000 correctly sa inyo pong self-answering ng inyo pong statement of financial position. Okay. Sige po, let's start with your self-check. Sige, sagutan nga natin ito. Self-check number 1. Salonga Company reported the following liabilities on December 31, 2021. So you have your accounts payable of 2 million, short-term borrowings of 1,500,000, bonds payable due in 2022 of 3 million, may premium din po na 500,000, mortgage payable of 3,500,000, but the 500,000 is the current portion, and bank loan due next year 2022 on June 30, 1 million. The bank loan was refinanced with a 5-year loan on December 31, 2021. What amount should be reported as total current liabilities in the December 31, 2021 statement of financial position? Pause the video if you need more time to think and play it again when you're ready. Okay, assuming that you have already answered this is how you answer it. Ito po ang solution. So, yung accounts payable po natin na 2 million, syempre po, current po yan. Tapos, yung short-term borrowing po natin, from the word itself naman po, short-term. So, wala po tayong problema. Current po yan, 1,500,000. Bonds payable, unang tingin ay non-current. Anong sabi ko kanina? Check nyo kung kailan due. 2022 na. Next year na current na siya. 3 million. Add nyo po ang premium, huwag kalimutan, 500,000. Mortgage payable po natin na 3,500,000. Syempre, non-current. Yan. Pero may current portion naman daw pong 500,000. So, add mo din po. Sir, anong gagawin natin dito sa bank loan na tong 1 million? Anong sabi ko kanina about dun sa mga power to refinance? Na-refinance daw po with a 5-year loan at the end of the period. Okay? So, yung 1 million mo, kasi dapat June na siya ng June 30, 2022. So, dapat current na. And na-refinance. So, yung 1 million mo becomes a non-current liability. So, ito lang po yung pag-a-addin nyo. The current liabilities at December 31, 2021 is 7,500,000. Okay, let's proceed with your self-check number 2. Mirror Company was established on January 1, 2021. Teka, parang may mali ako. Teka, edit ko na. Baka December 31, 2018 to. Na-carried away. Baguhin natin. December 31, 2021. Ayan. Okay. Sige. Ulit tayo. Ulit. Sorry for that. Okay. Self-check number 2. Mirror Company was established on January 1, 2021 with proceeds from the issuance of 7,500,000 in share capital and borrowed funds of 1,100,000. During the first year, revenue from sales and consulting amounted to 8,200,000 and operating costs and expenses totaled 6,400,000. On December 31, 2021, the entity declared 300,000 dividends payable to shareholders on January 15, 2022. The liabilities increased to 2 million at December 31, 2021. How much will be presented as total assets in the December 31, 2021 Statement of Financial Position? Pause the video if you need more time to think and play it again when you're ready. Assuming that you have already computed and think about it, so this is your solution. Okay, ganito po ha. Meron ka daw pong share capital na 7,500,000. Diretso na nating i-add yung effect ng net income. So, add mo si net income, minus mo si expenses na 6.4 million. Kasi, yung net income, i-add mo rin naman yan mamaya sa retained earnings, diba? So, diniretso ko na. Okay? Tapos, yung declaration natin ng dividends, ma-minus mo yan kasi pabawas naman din po yan sa retained earnings. So, ang net effect niya po talaga sa retained earnings, itong 8.2 minus 6.4 na net income minus dividends declared. Okay? Tsaka mo i-add si 7.5 million, your equity is 9 million. Ngayon, wag kayo malilito. Sinabi naman na sa problem na the liabilities increase to. Ayan ha, ingat kayo sa English. Hindi po siya increase by. Ha? Increase to. Ibig sabihin, yun na yun. Yun na yung liabilities. 2 million. Okay? Since, meron ka ng equity, meron ka ng liabilities, liabilities plus equity is also equal to your asset. So, 9 million plus 2 million, the answer is 11 million. Okay, so yun lamang po ang ating discussion for today. And our next lesson is the statement of comprehensive income and statement of changes in equity. I hope that you were able to understand the whole lesson very well, and forgive me for some of the errors that you encountered in the slides in this session. Okay, so thank you po for listening, and please like, share, and subscribe to Sir Chua's Accounting Lessons PH, and hit the notification bell button and comment down your questions, suggestions, and reactions. This has been Sir Chua's Accounting Lessons PH, and to God be all the glory, honor, and praise. Thank you and have a great day. Sarangeo.